We must talk about the dryers that need to be cleaned every day.
You had a
If they're
dryer
not,
fire.
we had several fires. Well, maybe two or three. I won't say several.
But one was the one that
Well,
one
we
was
had a
talking
main
about the
one,
fire.
like it burned up like two dryers.
Hi, my name is Priscilla Grant. I'm a serial entrepreneur, a wife, a mother, and a new grandmother. I run a $1 million pediatric home healthcare agency, and I have a government contracting business. Today, we have my husband here again today, Copeland Grant, and we're going to be talking about our laundromat ownership.
Yeah.
That was a pretty fun time for us.
Yes, it was fun.
We purchased a laundromat in 2020, July 2020, probably a couple months after our pediatric business kind of
Kind of like
started. Yeah,
yeah.
was warming up. So we did some research and we wanted to find a business that made money but was easy.
Easy, pretty much, turnkey.
Yeah, yeah. Hands off, something we thought we could just, it would just make money for us and we didn't have to be there a lot.
Yep.
Laundromat wasn't it.
That's not the case. Um,
So we did our research and we had about $50,000. So we didn't have enough to purchase a fully functioning laundromat. So we did something called seller financing.
yep.
We found a laundromat broker on a website,
Buy, sell,
bizbuy,
this buy, sell.
bizbuysell.com. And we found a laundromat broker and she brokered a deal with a laundromat owner to do seller financing. So the deal was to put $50,000 down. The sale price was $188,000 and 7% financing
Financing
at 8 years.
8 years.
So we did that deal and the payments on the remaining $138,000 was about $2,600 a month. So anybody looking into buying a business, you don't always have to go to a bank. You don't always have to have cash. There are a lot of people that will sell their businesses with seller finance.
Seller financing, yes.
So how did you feel about that deal and the seller financing?
Honestly, when we started looking at laundromats, I didn't even in my mind I didn't even think of the as you say fancy, a different way of getting financing.
Yeah.
Um, but when when we started talking about it and says, hey, this is what the broker says we can, try. I'm like, I was like, oh, okay, this is what they do with businesses. Shoot, we can buy a lot of these businesses like
Rent
this.
the owners.
To own, and then so my feelings on it was cool. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And we made it happen.
I thought the financing deal was I thought it was good at the time. So after that, the next part of that was the rent, the lease on the building.
The lease on the building. We actually had um so like all of this is like kind of new. So the lease on the building, it took a while for the owner. We didn't think it was. I didn't think it was funny because it's our first time doing this, but it took a while to get with them. But the broker that took to call them to get in touch with them, it took a while.
We had to do a full credit check. So the landlord. So now you've made the seller financing deal with the seller, but the landlord that owns the building has to vet you and your business as well. So we had to do a credit check. We had to show bank statements and show that we had to send in resumes, business plan, all those things before the landlord would approve us to take over the lease. So the lease was another. So wait, the lease was 2,600, and
I want to say something. Let me So before we get to the lease part, so when you are looking at these laundromats on wherever you're looking on the web page, you gotta sign in as an NDA.
Hmm.
Sign it. You gotta sign the NDA, and then they go through like all the finances.
Yeah.
So I just want to say, um, for people that are looking at businesses that you want to buy,
Yeah.
and we're gonna get to it further down the way, but do your due diligence. I say that with everything. Do your due diligence. Look at everything. Turn over every rock. Look at paperwork. And that's something that we didn't do. I just want to put it out there. We kind of did it, but we didn't like really go into detail. But we're going to get into that later
Well, you
on.
don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And when you're going into an industry that you don't know, it's a big risk
Yes.
because you can research as much as you want to, but sometimes you don't even know what to look for.
Mm.
So
It's a learning experience.
with the lease, that was a when you don't know, you just don't know type of situation because so the landlord is only responsible for things outside of the building.
Mm.
The landlord is not responsible for anything inside of the building.
Yep.
And before we made the sale, we did go through the building and our broker helped us pick out things that we felt should be fixed. Issues in the building that we would only purchase if the landlord fixed it.
Mm.
Well, the landlord kind of you what do you say, jerry rigged some things.
Not the landlord, the owner. Well,
The owner.
let's say let's not landlord. Let's get it straight. The landlord owns the building.
Yes.
The owner that
runs the business.
It runs the business. So there's two different people in this deal here.
I meant the owner. So there was a leak in the roof, which we're gonna get to because that caused us a whole headache. There was a hole in the back wall that needed to be fixed.
Yes.
There were some water heaters that were supposed to be fixed, I thought.
And that's all on the people that actually own.
Yeah, so all that inside.
Business.
And he was supposed to fix those things. Oh, and the AC unit.
And the AC unit.
One of the AC units needed to be fixed.
Yep.
So almost everything that was supposed to be fixed was not completely fixed. It was fixed enough for us to walk in and say, "Oh, it's working now."
Yeah, everything's good.
Yeah,
everything is great. And then the day comes and
it's not so great.
Well, the day comes, you sign the papers, and now it's your baby.
So one of the things with the AC unit, one of them never completely got fixed, and we ended up having to bring a number of repair people in there. But again, it was working when we went in. But by the end of the summer,
it was kind of working. So it's one of those things like again, I want to use this used car kind of situation. It's one of those things where you get a used car, and then after you get it, you drive it for a couple of days, and then it's like the AC goes out, or let's say a month or two or whatever, and then the AC goes out, and you're like, why is the AC going? It was working. This thing was on full blast. I've been using it for a month. And come to find out, once you get a person up there to look at it,
yeah,
it's like, they're like, oh, you see this hole that's in this condenser line? The Freon's gone. And you know how much it costs for Freon? A lot of money, like maybe $900 a pound.
Condenser line, Freon.
Crazy.
All not words that I...
Okay, well, it's part of the... I'm sorry, y'all. I'm sorry for it.
So, but that goes to the fact that I'm not a mechanic.
Yeah.
So I turn it on. It works. I think it's fine. The other issue was the roof. So the roof started leaking.
Mm-hmm.
And in my head, the roof is outside of the building. So this is not an issue of ours. Let's call the landlord. So first of all, I don't get to directly talk to the landlord. I talk to the company, the management company.
Yeah.
So I send an email, hey, the roof's leaking. I believe this is part of the landlord's responsibility per the lease. And they get somebody to come out. So the person comes out and goes up on the roof and says, wait a minute. Someone has already been on the roof attempting to fix this issue. Someone patched this up
with tar, and the roof is a vinyl roof.
So I say, okay. And so they say, well, that voided that part of the agreement. We had not been on the roof at all. The previous landlord had went on the roof and tried to patch up the leak instead of reaching out to the previous owner. I keep saying landlord. The previous owner tried to patch up the leak instead of reaching out to the landlord. So what he did voided our agreement. And since we didn't go up on the roof to check if anyone had tried to do any patchwork, we didn't know. So the roof now became our issue, and the landlord said he would fix it, but he would add those payments onto our rent. And we had to pay him back for fixing
Yeah, pretty much. So in your lease, when you do get your, get a lease, there's a part called CAM, and it's an acronym for, it's like taxes,
Yeah.
something maintenance and something else. But it's part of your lease. So you have your lease, what you're going to pay for your lease, and then you have your CAM, which they break it down over the year and say, okay, this is how much CAM. So that's added on to your lease, and that's what your lease payment's going to be.
Which
a lot
increased anytime he did any repairs.
Yep, and it increases over the year. And that's something that people need to know. It increases every year. For that 8 years, that CAM goes up a percentage.
He wanted to repave the parking lot.
Yes.
And he took it upon himself to repave the parking lot, and then he added that fee
to the CAM.
Our CAM.
Yep.
So commercial leasing is very different than residential leasing.
It is.
Which we learned. Which only made me want to be a commercial landlord. So, because as the landlord, you don't have as many responsibilities as you would if you have a residential lease. Everything is on the tenant almost. So, we got the lease. Now we're getting into a little bit more due diligence that we should have done with the seller. Because when we bought the place, it had an older system in it. It was a card system. You put money in a machine, it added the money to the card, and then you use the card at the washer or the dryer.
Yep.
So there was this old computer system in the back that they pulled up and showed us numbers on, in which they said they made about $14,000, $15,000 a month. So I'm doing the calculations in my head. I'm like, okay, this is great. This is good. I'm estimating prices. So that's not what they made. But
not even
close business, they just go in and get cash. They came in once a week and emptied out the cash drawer. Mind you, the owner said that they had been robbed before.
Yes.
Coming in and taking cash out. A lot of laundromats are not in the best neighborhoods.
Yep.
So when we first started, we would try to inconspicuously go in and put cash in a Amazon box
or a laundry box,
a soap box or something. We're walking out with thousands of dollars in ones. So I said, I don't want to do this anymore. One, I didn't want a business where we had to be in here consistently, and that card system was constantly breaking down, constant issues, and because it was outdated, we couldn't get parts to repair it.
Nope.
So we found a company that would sell us a new modern
software
innovative system where customers could use their credit card, they could use an app
on the phone
to start the machine, and we could finance it.
Yep.
So the cost was $30,000.
Yep.
So now we're at about $3,000 for the lease. We're at about $1,900 for the loan payments, so about $2,000 for the seller financing. That's $5,000. And now this machine we got is about $1,200, right? So what are we at? About $6,200. Keep the numbers in mind. They said they made about 15,000. So I'm like, all right, cool. So we put this machine in, and nobody liked it.
Nobody liked it. Like, um, again, you know, everybody. I want people to understand. I want them to know that, like, when you are getting businesses, you have to go through things and understand like what you're getting to, because the
Maybe understand who your customer.
your customer base. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
your customer base,
Yeah.
because if you're in an older neighborhood, it can be, let's just say 50% of your customer base might be a senior, an older group near an older neighborhood, and the rest might be, a more of a younger crowd. But that's pretty much the case what it was. When that system was put in place, we lost a lot of our senior base, and it
Because
really.
they didn't want to download an app. They didn't want to put their credit card information in. They didn't want to do all that. They just wanted to bring in cash and start the machines.
Yeah.
So it took a while for us to have to build back up our customer base after we did that.
Yep.
We thought, oh, we're about to modernize this place. We went and we painted. We bought new desks, new chairs, new tables, like we really.
Well, new yes, and the machine. Yeah, we also have vending
We had
machines.
vending machines that came with the store. That's another.
That's another.
People don't tell you that when you're buying food for your vending machines and people don't buy it,
It ages out.
it ages, and you have to now throw it away.
Throw it away.
So it's money wasted. So we spent time trying to figure out what snacks would sell, what snacks were people buying and weren't they buying.
To be honest, nobody cares about snacks in the law. Nobody cares. I mean, you might get somebody to buy some water. Nobody cares about sodas. Nobody cares about none of that. They in there to get the clothes water. They in there for an hour and out.
Yes. So where are we at? $6,200. New machines. Boom. Now you got utilities. So altogether, our utilities, gas, electric, water, internet, trash, and our insurance, our liability insurance for the business, were about $3,000. About. So now we're at about $9,200.
Yep.
And now there are employees.
Yeah.
So when we bought the business, it was a 24-hour operation, and he had 6 employees.
Yep.
We did not like the 24-hour operation because overnight the electricity is running and there aren't many. We calculated how much money we made overnight and it wasn't a lot. So we changed the hours and we closed the store at
8:00.
About 8 o'clock. Last wash was at 7. So when we did that, we didn't need as many employees. I didn't think we needed 6 employees.
Well, actually, when let's be 100. Like when we first walked in and actually viewed the whole building before we even purchased it, and we asked about the employees and they told us how many they were. We were like, I told my wife, I was like, we need to fire all of them because they ain't it. They're not the people that we want in there. I want fresh people in there. But just like, what'd you say? What'd you say, babe?
I felt like we weren't in a position to fire everybody because now we have to go in and do the work until we can hire new people. So I said, well, let's see how this plan pans out, and let's get to know the people. Eventually, everybody ended up having to be fired, and not because we wanted to, because the way they were allowed to operate in the store was just not how we wanted to run things. People were selling drugs in the parking lot.
Yeah, it was a party in there.
We had an employee that at 7 o'clock, if someone, or if it was, so the last wash was at 7, but if someone was still washing clothes when it was time for him to leave, on 2 occasions, he threw the customer's clothes out the door. And the customer, so the main number went to my cell phone, another issue. So in the middle of the night, the customer is calling and screaming on the phone that our tenant had thrown her clothes outside and locked her out. So we call him and he's like, well, I told her to leave and she wouldn't leave. So
She had to go. She had to go. I said, oh, well, I need you to unlock the doors and allow her to go in here.
put her back in.
And you can go home.
And he told us no.
Yeah. And
so we had to go up there. No, that was the second time he told us no.
Yeah.
But we went up there. We let her in. We reprimanded him.
And this is our employee, not the tenant. This is our employee.
He did it again.
He did it again. And
for the same lady.
Yes. And I had to fire him. I'm sorry, I hate to do it, but I'd let him go.
And mainly because when you went to like discuss it with him, he was like, I don't care. Like, I'll do it again.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah, we had a employee. We had to go somewhere out of town for a business, and he calls us as we're arriving to the next place, and he goes, "Hey, I wasn't able to make it to the store."
Well, let's back up because he was we gave a chance to he had a record.
He had a record.
And for murder, actually.
Yeah.
And but it was in the past.
I mean, it was in the past.
And we reviewed the record and we just needed somebody to watch the laundromat. So I said, hey, like, I'm not one to like turn away society. Let's help people. So we gave him a job and things seem okay when we were there to check in. But the moment we went out of town, he's like, yeah, I can't. I don't have a ride. Mind you, he lived around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
So we were like, and this is a ride to open the store because the store is locked now.
And the store's not, and this is 12 o'clock in the afternoon.
When he
called. The store's supposed to have been opened up at
7.
At 7. Actually at 8.
He's supposed to be there at 7.
Yeah.
To open the store
at 8.
So he calls at 12. He's like, yeah, I can't make it. I don't got no ride. So we're like, well, you live around the corner. Can you just walk? I'm not walking. Oh, well, can you take the bus? It's like, I'm not taking no bus.
Right.
So you're just not gonna, nah. I ain't coming.
So what you want me to do? What you want me to do? Don't worry about it. I get somebody on it. So we
had to call another employee
to have them just at least open the store.
Yeah, to go open the store. Because by this time, we got customers calling the phone number saying, hey, laundromat's not open. I'm here to wash my clothes.
I want to say this to my audience. Earlier we were talking about the homeless, and I wanted to say we said it a lot, and I just want to make it clear. We owned this laundromat about back in 2022.
2020 through 2023.
But it's the unhoused. I want to make, clear that I'm not trying to offend no one. It is the unhoused. Yes. But we want to get right back to it. So we talked about employees. We talked about the financing. We talked about looking at getting the establishment. We talked about the landlord. We talked about the seller financing. So let's get behind the scenes. Now, everybody thinking you buy a laundromat, you got machines in there. Machines need maintenance. So if you were to get a maintenance person to come in here and do it, they're going to charge you at least probably $50 an hour to work on machines, dryers and washers and whatnot that you have in there. Because I have a maintenance background, I perform on the maintenance.
All of the maintenance.
All of the maintenance. Everything. The plumbing, the electrical, the video cameras, everything. The installation of things, I did it. When it came to the maintenance part, it's a headache. You got to stay on top of it. It's something that you had to do. Like, I say you have to be in there every other day. Like, maybe if it's 7 days a week, you need to be in there at least, 3 times a week. You need to be checking the machines. need to make sure, that they were working right. And I constantly was checking on, and they break down as people are using the machines. I had a customer come in there, and basically a lady I say every other month, she would wash rugs with cat litter that was on there. And I would literally have to undo the cat litter out of the drain lines. And it was just a headache. If it wasn't that, it was, I hate to say it, ladies, the wire, the wire at the brawl wire, it gets stuck in the valve. So,
Sex toys
oh, it was, yeah, sex toys
stuck in the drain.
stuck in the drain. Um,
Over soaping.
over and that was the biggest thing. Oh, a lot of soap, a lot of soap. Uh,
Our people like to use a
a
lot.
lot of soap, and I mean like by the island.
We need to see the suds.
Yes, they need to see subs. If it wasn't that, it was the dryers. The dryers started. Some of the dryers started to seize up. The bearings inside the actual dryer. It wasn't that. It was the plumbing. We had two floods in the place due to the fact that the previous owner, you know, did take care of. There is in let me say this, in the cab there's an ordinance where you have to have all the water that's being discharged from the washers have to go into this basin, and it's like they call it like a uh sandbox. It's basically where a settlement tank. So before it goes to the main sewer, it has to go into a sediment tank, and all the lint and the dirt and stuff settles in there, and the water will go into the sewage. That thing had a discharge, but the pipe was rusted. And I didn't know it until I actually cleaned it out one day and saw it. And it was like, oh my God. And then I got a plumber in there. The plumber is talking about, he gave me three options. He says, I can do this and it costs $14,000. I can do this and it can cost $20,000. Or I can do this and run a new line all the way from the laundromat out to the street, and that's gonna cost you like 30 grand. I'm like, how about I choose none of those? Thank you. Have a good day. And that was an $800 bill after
For him to say that.
Yeah, just for him to come out, look in the sewage, and say, "Oh, it's clogged. It won't. You need to tear it up."
We went to Lowe's.
Yep.
You bought what is that? A sump pump?
I bought what I did was, because it wasn't working properly, the water that is used, the water that comes off of the washing machine is called gray water. It's not sewage, but it's called gray water. So I took a gray water pump or a sump pump. I figured out how to run the sump line to a main sewer line and pretty much pump the water up and shoot it over to a main line, and it worked. And they still using it today, to be honest.
Yes.
Um.
So.
Oh, and one more thing.
Mm-hmm.
The dryers.
Ooh.
We must talk about the dryers that need to be cleaned every day.
You had a dryer fire.
We had several fires, or maybe two or three. I won't say several.
But one was the one that.
But we had a main one. Like it burned up like two dryers. It was scary.
Put in like a pack of nylon.
They were like nylon, and they were something that like and she had stuff in there with chemicals on it, like some type of flammable chemicals that could catch on fire. In the end, that was the report.
Yeah.
So
that was an insurance claim, and she made a whole deal out of it. So to wrap up, lessons, and before I wrap up, we were talking numbers. So ultimately, the owners did not make $14,000 to $15,000 a month.
Nope.
We maxed out at about 10 on a good month, and that was usually like January because we made so much on New Year's Eve. And I think we were at about 6,200 before we got to the employees, and employees was about 3,000, 3,500. So if we made money that month, it was
maybe 1,000, if that.
It was a miracle.
It was a miracle. It was, it
Oh,
it was an eye opener.
yeah.
It was an eye opener, and the main thing I just want to say, like, what I've learned from the 2 or 3 years running the laundromat is it's a lot of things. It's location,
Mm.
it's your demographics, it's you need to know what your pricing is going to be. You need to know that, like, my lease is part of this, and it's a gambit of things that you need to know about the business.
So lessons. One, do your due diligence,
Yes.
and not just with the numbers, not just with definitely with what they're making. It's really hard to do in a laundromat business because it's so cash based. So if somebody tells you they take out, you know, $5,000 in cash a week, you either have to see their bank deposits, and then at times some of these people don't even deposit all the cash in the bank.
Nope.
Get a broker. Have a broker the deal. Our broker, I don't think we got in some respects, maybe we did get a bad deal, but she kind of handled a lot of the things that we didn't understand.
Hmm.
And the legalities, and it went through a lawyer. Um, the lease,
Understand your
commercial
lease.
leasing is
Very
very
different. Very different.
so you have to understand what you are responsible for, and you need to double check that place.
Look at everything.
Yeah.
And don't let nobody tell you different. Look, turn over every right. Be like, oh, why is it's leaking.
Don't be afraid to
Don't
speak
be
up.
afraid to ask questions.
Yeah.
And if it don't look right, it ain't right.
Yeah.
If it don't look right, it ain't right. I'm telling you.
Employees.
Yes.
Definitely have some type of manual HR plan in place. We have plenty more stories about employees, plenty more stories about people doing drugs in the laundromat. Like, we will get some of those later, but having an HR plan in place for when you get ready to fire people, that came in handy. I had a worker file unemployment, and I was able to get that denied because I had a paper trail.
Right.
And don't sleep on unemployment. When I was an employee, I thought it was ridiculous that employers fought unemployment. The reason employers fight unemployment is because we get penalized. We pay into the system, but we get penalized when you guys draw from that system, and our unemployment rates increase.
Yes.
So financials, due
Due
diligence,
diligence.
employees,
Employees.
have your paperwork in order. We got inspected by the city, and there was a number of things that we had to fix. Just random inspection. And one thing I think we did do well is we pivoted, and we got out of this business at the right time.
Well, actually, we did a couple of things. Actually, we started a kiosk because the system had a POS system, so we started a laundry thing. But maybe that's another time we talk about. Yeah.
But and like you said, the demographics, everybody wasn't happy with the changes. A lot of people like things the way they are.
Yep.
So to wrap it up, we ended up selling this business in 2023.
Yep.
We sold it for $171,000. Not what we bought it for.
Nope.
Not what we put into it, but we got out of it. We sold the brick and mortar. We kept the LLC because by the time I got ready to sell the brick and mortar, I was government contracting with that LLC. So you can sell your location and keep your LLC. And now that LLC does laundry for government organizations.
Which we are into now, right?
And we have a warehouse, and we outsource some of the work. But we are a functioning government contracting business, and we do laundry and dry cleaning for various government organizations. And it's been a lot more lucrative than
a lot more lucrative
the laundromat.
It's fun, and again, we just learn how to just. That's the thing is learning from your as my wife would say, your R&D,
mm-hmm.
and and pivoting. You just if it's not really a mistake, you just learn from not failures, but just, okay, I won't do that again. And you say, okay, now I'm gonna go this way with it, or I'm gonna go this another way with it. Just you didn't fail. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Don't
give up. If we hadn't gone through that with the laundromat, we wouldn't be in government contracting.
Yes.
And that's the lesson we learned.
Yep.
And I hope you guys learned something from this episode. If you're ever looking into getting a laundromat, be careful.
Yes, buyer beware.
Buyer beware.
Buyer beware.
Thank you so much for joining us today.